Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another wonderful episode of Beyond the Bottom Line, the video show that takes you on an in-depth experience to sit down with nonprofit leaders, people in the space who don't usually get the airtime they deserve to share their stories and talk about why they got into this wonderful, wild, wacky world of non-for-profits. This show sits down with all sorts of people, hears their stories, and gives you insight on the non-for-profit world so that you have a better understanding of what really goes on behind the people who are making such a difference in the world. And today we're sitting down with a really good friend of mine. Actually, was on her show a couple weeks ago. Her name is Lesley Kaplan. She runs an organization called Impact IL, as well as a business coach in the greater Jerusalem area. And we've had some great conversations. She runs some really cool events that I've had the opportunity to participate in. And so we're finally getting her on our show, and this is going to be a real hoot. So if you want to watch the show and learn more about it, you can watch it streaming on Bravehearts TV. You can watch it on our YouTube channel, Beyond the Bottom Line Show. You can also check it out on our website, givesweet.com/Beyond the Bottom Line, where you'll be able to learn more about Lesley and the wonderful work that she's doing with Impact IL. And as I always say, let's dive into the show because nobody cares about me. Let's talk about you. Lesley, welcome aboard. How are you?
Thank you, Sean. I'm great. Thank you. Doing great. And I'm excited to be here after having you on my podcast. And now we're doing the reverse. And we've also had contact over the years in different formats. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So what's your deal?
What is my deal is that I am super passionate about business and I'm super passionate about social impact. So what I've done is created a platform to merge the two, where we turn professional expertise into social impact. So let me explain how it's done and what it's all about. For the past almost 30 years, I've been working as a business strategy coach, advancing business owners, mostly SMB, small to business, medium-sized business owners in different formats. I'm the founder of the Israel Networking Hub, where we have different online and in-person events, including our signature Jerusalem Business Conference, which, by the way, saved the date. In fact, this may even get out before I've even told people to save the date, is October 26th, 2026. So I've been doing that. And together with all my passions, and yes, I run the Monday Motivation Spotlight podcast too, which gives a spotlight to business owners or nonprofits making a difference in Israel. For many, many years, I've had this desire to also make social impact and not only business impact, which in itself is obviously very big. And I've been, honored to be able to have worked with so many business owners after the past close on 30 years. So for a while, I was thinking about how can I merge exactly what I'm doing now with my business owners, but also make more impact with the younger generations. And it took me a while to come up, more than a year to come up with the concept. And as you know, when you get an idea, when you're passionate about something and just suddenly something clicks and you think of the concept and you think of the name, then everything just fitted into place. So what we do is Impact IL was born where we merge our business owners, the business owners that are part of our Israel Networking Hub, or professional retirees. If you've retired and you have a skill and you're still wanting to make a difference and wanting to make an impact, what we do is we teach real life skills and special techniques to 3 different platforms, 3 different groups or sectors, let's call it that we have chosen to make impact in. An impact on. One is in the education area, and I'll talk about that in a moment. In fact, we'll talk about all 3 in a moment. The other is with soldiers, lone soldiers, and spouses of soldiers. Since October 7th, we all know that many of them, especially those that had businesses that they were running off, their wives were in business, took a hit, they weren't able to manage their businesses properly. So we're here to empower them. These, as well as I say, students and different social groups, which we can talk about in a moment, where we teach them the real life skills, we empower them, we give them either mentoring and or workshops, and we build a connection with them because I'm a firm believer that every single person can set goals, maintain their goals, and achieve their goals. And it doesn't matter what your age. So I want youngsters to grow up knowing that they can achieve their goals. They can also set goals. It's not just for business owners. And this is the way that can make change and that they can reach success in their lives, however they define success.
That's really amazing. So what was the catalyst for starting Impact IL?
I'm so happy you asked that because I was actually going to say what it is. And as we know, there's that we all have our why we start something, whether it's a business, whether it's a nonprofit. So for me, the why was as follows. Firstly, I've volunteered on many boards before and also as a volunteer nonprofits for many, many years. So although I wasn't actually running the nonprofit, but I saw exactly how it worked and what people were doing and the impact that it makes. Excuse me, I need a cough. So following that, and also having children, thank God I've got 5 children. They're all grown now and adults and responsible and successful adults. However, growing up, some of them, it wasn't so simple. 2 of them in particular had learning disabilities, hated the school system. It affected their self-confidence. And I'm sure many people are familiar with this particular route, which is why one of the reasons that I chose to focus on education, in particular high school students, was based on my experience that if my children had had this mentoring or anything in the school system, and I will add, I don't know what it's like abroad, but I have had certain, feedback about things abroad. In Israel, we have amazing entrepreneurs and high tech, and we're fantastic at these kind of things once kids or once young adults reach a certain level. However, our school system has much to be spoken about, and a lot of the stuff that they learn is theory and not practical stuff. When we learn to drive a car, for example, do we just jump into the car and start learning? No. Yes, there's a theory that you have to pass, but there's also the practical, learning how to do it. So the only way that people are going to learn certain things like goal setting, time management, financial areas and budgeting, and way more, how to prepare a presentation, how to do an elevator pitch, what their goals are. And we have a wide range of over 30 topics, is by people showing them the real way and them getting involved tachlis on how to learn it. So that's my why with the education side. On the side of the lone soldiers, as well as soldiers, very clearly, number one, October 7th was the trigger, even though Impact IL was born a couple of years after October 7th, about 2 years after. But I had and have a son who's done more than 700 days of reserve duty. And as a business owner himself and as a wife being in business, I saw the impact it made not only on their businesses, but also on their families. So one of the things that we also do with this is also teach, for those that are independent business owners or wanting to learn business skills, is that we teach them business skills. We teach them about strategy, and we teach them a lot about different areas that they can be successful, not only in their businesses and in their lives. So that's my why about choosing those 2 particular sectors. And because I'm also very passionate about other organizations that exist, we decided to add a 3rd track, which is the general social track, where we have different organizations, just to give you an example, and we're building and adding more all the time, different projects. So if there's someone that is listening to this that has a nonprofit, that's the whole idea. We partner with nonprofits and business owners. So if there's someone that fits into this box, I'd be delighted to add them as a project and to speak to them. So the 3rd aspect, as I say, general social impact, one of an example where we've already started making impact with their participants is with an organization or a nonprofit that deals with kids that have come from families where someone in the family has had cancer, either one of the parents or one of the siblings, not necessarily the kids themselves. And often when a family is undergoing something like this or extreme medical conditions, the kids get kind of pushed to the side or don't get given as much attention. So we've partnered with a wonderful organization where they create activities for children, even if the family is now, Bezrat Hashem, treated and finished, where they're actually giving the kids a lot of these tools and
Which
engagement.
organization is this?
It's called Jeremy Circle.
Oh, interesting, because I did a lot of work extensively with Zichron Menachem for a while, and they also do the same
yes,
thing,
they
but
too
mostly...
are an awesome Amultan. Listen, there are so many wonderful nonprofits out there making a difference. As you know, and you've had a lot more experience in the nonprofit field than I have, there are just so many that are doing wonderful, wonderful things. So if they fit the model that we have, where we provide a platform also for business owners here to make an impact, but also to get exposure and to connect them with different nonprofits, and who knows what it could lead to in the future. So it's really a win-win-win. It's a win-win for the business owner, for the nonprofit in the middle, that they're getting this assistance. And it's also making the nonprofit, let's call it, more attractive to their participants, because those that were involved in their projects, they can actually say that we provide this mentoring and empowerment to our participants. And what I will add is that we do it at no charge. Our business owners volunteer their time. They're professionals. Now, obviously, when I say at no charge, if somebody needs or wants something every single day, then we're not able to do it at that level, because we try to be fair across the board, obviously, to the business owners that are making impact, and also, to the people on the other side. So it has to be fair for all ends. But
Right.
our model is that we do it at no charge, and our business owners get exposure. We have our website is impactil.org. We have a page with our team. And we have many more, some who are not yet on the site, where it shares what they do. So they get a link to their website as well, a clickable link, and it gives them exposure, makes them also more attractive, because the fact that you can say, I'm involved in social impact, your clients like to hear that, and people like to hear that.
That's amazing. You said something interesting, how you're not just giving people theory, but you're helping them on the practical level. And we were just having this conversation with one of our interns about an hour ago, how we're giving him he's here for a summer internship and he wants to learn business and marketing. So I said, okay, we got the perfect project for you. We're working on creating another sub company within our company. And, we don't have the time to do it, which, again, we want to help you, but we want to actually give you the practicalities and tools you need to really learn how to build and market a business. So, I'm all on that philosophy of like, just dive in and do it and learn, because theory is great, but practicality is better. And then when you can walk away with knowing something, you did something tangible and really gain the full experience. So I think that's really brilliant.
Absolutely, and that is the whole idea, is that I truly believe when you give, you gain. And we all know, even just in a simple concept, not even nonprofit, when you give a gift to someone or you give a donation, often the person giving gets that great feeling that he's given. So obviously the person gaining on the recipient side feels great too. But that is why this is a win-win-win. Our model works. We started 6 months ago, so we're still new. We're still new in the nonprofit space. As I say, I've got 30 years experience in terms of strategy and in terms of business and facilitating and guiding. So many of the same principles in terms of strategy and model, I'm able to apply also with the nonprofit side as I am with the business side. However, as we know, it's all very, very different. Nonprofit is a different ball game on its own totally. And you are the expert at it to tell
Well,
us.
well, I was going to say, as someone who's been in the business strategy and coaching world for 30 years, and now you're transitioning to the nonprofit space a bit, there are a lot of similarities and overlaps, because a nonprofit is a business. A nonprofit is a functioning, operating business. They have a few different rules, but a lot of people, unfortunately, view their nonprofit literally as a nonprofit, and they're like, well, we can't make money. We can't, so when it comes to talking to organizations about this, how do you explain it to them that, you got to run your stuff like a business? You're going to be successful. But if you're running it like a passion project, then you're just going to flop. So like, how do you, with your expertise and experience, explain this to these guys? And what's the how do they receive it? How do they take it?
Okay, that's a very good question. Firstly, I know that we're all busy. So business owners especially independent business owners. And before I answer your question, I do want to emphasize one thing. The idea of social impact is obviously not new. We're not reinventing the wheel. What we are reinventing is that these are independent small business owners, solopreneurs, who are giving these services. It's not a large company that's coming in and saying to their workers or the employees, guys, today we're having Social Impact Day and we're going to be working with this group or that nonprofit or whatever. Not that I'm undermining that for one moment. I think that's fabulous and it's very much needed. So that is the difference with this model, is that we're teaching the real life skills, but we're also giving the ability to make an impact to the solopreneur, as well as to get exposure. So that is exactly how we explain it, to answer your question, is that we know that people are busy. You're busy, I'm busy, everybody's busy, right? That being said, when something's important to us, we make things happen. You know, the saying that to give something to a busy person and then it'll get done. So for a business owner who's maybe in his or her 20 or 30s with a young family growing up, this may be less suitable. But a lot of my target market are business owners in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and even 70s, where their kids are grown. Many of them are out of the house. So they have the ability to do this. Some of them are obviously more established than others. Okay, some have been going in business for many years. Some of them are new to the field. So what we do is on our website, we have a page on the impactil.org site. There's a page called Our Team. So anyone who would like to apply or thinks that they could be suitable for this can go to that page. They can read more about it. And there's a short Google form that they fill in where the fact that you are added and you join our project doesn't mean that you're going to be doing this every single day, every single week. On the form, you can choose how often you want to do it, whether it's weekly, whether it's monthly, whether it's from time to time. And from time to time is great too. You choose the area of location where close to where you live, or if you want to do it online, you let us know what your expertise is. You choose the time of day. You also choose in what language you would like to do it. So all these makes it very, very attractive and able for a business owner to participate. It's not that his business is going to suffer because he's not going to be having time to work on his business. Dafka, the opposite. We believe it'll make it more attractive.
That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. And so so the past 6 months, you've been running this organization, the social impact organization, and how has it been received? What are the successes? What have you seen in terms of like tweaking the model and being able to grow it and sustain it? Because 6 months is a decent chunk of time to really see what's working, what's not working. But like, where do you see the bottlenecks? Where do you see like the scalability in this?
Right, absolutely. So, firstly, what was important to me was proof of concept that we can show that the model works. So, what we've been spending most of our time on the past 6 months, during the past 6 months, is actually not fundraising, which I know is the
Yeah.
basis of most nonprofits. And yes, we have had, thank God, we've had donors, and we'd love to have more to be able to make this even more accessible to more people. What we've spent the last 6 months working on is building the model, building our website, building our group, our team of entrepreneurs and solopreneurs, which we're adding to all the time. On the other side, connecting with nonprofits who we feel fit the model of what we're looking at, whether it's in the education side, the general social sector side, or on the IDF or soldier side. So adding more projects to that. And that too, we're in contact with the places all the time that we're adding if we feel that it's a win-win, that it matches our model. And what we've started doing is actually doing activities and making this impact. So the activities that we've done to date, and some has been in the general social sectors field, some has been on the the lone soldiers and the soldiers field. And with the educational field, we've started doing things. Unfortunately, due to the war over the last couple of months, on and off, and not knowing when it was going to be and when not, it's actually caused a huge disruption to the educational system with
Mm-hmm.
some days where the kids just didn't have school. So often
Oh,
events
you're
that we
telling
had
me.
needed, yeah, you're a parent. Often events that were planned needed to be cancelled because of the fact that, the schools were just not coping and the teachers were not coping with the load. But that being said, actually during the war, we did some impact events where we did them via Zoom, and that was fantastic. And in fact, even during one or two, we had an alert and a siren
Oh my.
during the actual Zoom where we were doing what we were doing. So we just improvised accordingly. So that's what we've been working on, is the model, expanding it. And now that we see, not just now, but even a couple of months back, that we see that the model works, really what it takes now is just to, multiply everything to scale and make the entire model bigger, adding more business owners to our team, adding more projects to our team, doing more impact events. We have a fabulous event, for example, coming up on September 17th in Jerusalem with soldiers, lone soldiers, Benan Banot Shirut. We're partnering with different amotot there. It's an in-person event. So that's something that we're working very hard on. We're having next week actually a women's empowerment event, which is a fundraiser for Impact IL in Ranana. So if anyone is listening and hears this before then, I'm not sure when this is going live. So it's
This
going to
week.
be a fabulous event that they will also be empowered. So we're doing things all the time. And there's overlap always between, the for-profit, the business side and the nonprofit side there. I'm continuing to do both. I'm not just pushing aside what
Right.
I've done for the last 30 years. The opposite, I feel that it's giving even more empowerment to my business owners who I'm so passionate about, and I want to help them and give them a voice and a spotlight, as well as the social sector.
That's amazing. And again, the fact that you're pairing up the two things that, work, teaching business owners with nonprofits and having them have that experience of working with seasoned business owners to really understand how to make their organizations even better is amazing. Because as I said, a lot of organizations, they don't run it like a business, they run it like a passion project. I've seen this countless times. This is why operations and all the other things that go into running a business tend to fall the wayside, and that's why everyone's trying to fundraise. But you can't fundraise if you don't have a plan. It's like any business. You can't go out there and try to raise capital if you don't have a plan. No one's going to talk to you. And if you don't have an audience, if you don't have anything like backing you up. So to really have a solid foundation to be able to grow and scale, I think this is amazing. And the fact that you're morphing the two things together is something of, brilliance. So,
Thank you. And I want to just add as well, as we know, that's one of the main challenges that nonprofits have is on the fundraising side, and not only remaining relevant to their target market but to be sustainable. So obviously that's one thing that we are working on. Like with every nonprofit or business, there are setup costs and everything else. And the fact that our business owners are professional impact IL, let's call them volunteers, or we call them professional impact ILs, it doesn't mean that we don't have expenses. Obviously, if it's a business owner, they may be volunteering their time, but if it's we have resources that we need to buy for the activity. So if it's a business owner that has a direct expense related to their activity, depending on the type of person. So then that is something that we do cover. In other words, they're volunteering their time, but we're not expecting them to be out of pocket hundreds or thousands of shekels, because they're
right.
providing resources for an activity. So that's something that we obviously discuss with them as well, and would need to approve it beforehand. But yeah, sustainability is obviously the name of the game. And that's something that we're working on. We're just working to multiply what we've already started, which we see works. And thank God it's been a win-win-win. Every single person was delighted. The business owners that got the exposure, we not only give them the exposure to the group at the time via social media afterwards. I have in the newsletter that I put out, I had an impact corner where I give them exposure to people on my mailing list. And so they were delighted. The people that received it was totally a win-win. And that's what I'm all about and what it's
That's
all about.
that's amazing. Well, Lesley, as we wrap up this episode, what piece of advice would you give to somebody who's looking to get into the nonprofit space, or is in the nonprofit space, but is trying to figure out where to go next, based on your experience, based on the work you're doing with Impact ILs?
Okay, very good question. Number one, obviously, you have to be totally passionate about what you're doing, because like being in business, being a nonprofit is not easy. Obviously, we're still newer at the game. There are many that have much, much more experience and many more years experience, and just that their models are much more mature than what our model is. But what I can say is that the responsibility, like as if you're a business owner, you've got to combine that passion with responsible management, operations, and making sure that all different elements and all different cogs in the wheel are oiled and working. And of course, there will be challenges, like with any business that has challenges. But if one is passionate about something enough, I do believe that one can make it work. And it's all about, I love using the sentence, and I'll end with this. I believe that whether somebody is interested in something or committed to something, that's where the difference lies. In other words, if I'm interested in starting a project and saying I'm going to make it work, but then I see the going gets tough, and then I'm going to just, throw in the rug and say, no, I'm not doing this anymore. That's one thing. But if you're totally committed to something, you know that you're making a difference, even if there are drier periods or the funds aren't necessarily coming in or there's challenges, whichever way, then you will make the effort to keep it going. And that's what my message is.
It's amazing. Well, Lesley, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I'm going to put all this information on the page that's going to be dedicated to Impact IL on GiveSuite.com. As I mentioned, you can watch this episode and all of our episodes streaming live on Bravehearts TV, as well as our YouTube channel, Beyond the Bottom Line Show. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to get more episodes of this amazing show. And until next episode, I will catch you guys later, and keep on doing such amazing work that you're all doing and changing the world one step at a time. Thank you so much, Lesley, for joining us, and we'll catch you
Thank
all in the
you.
next
Thank you for
episode.
having me. Keep on doing the great stuff that you're doing, Sean. You're doing great stuff out there.
I try. I try.